What is caller ID spoofing? Caller ID spoofing is a technique where the caller deliberately falsifies the information transmitted to your caller ID display to disguise their true identity. This allows the caller to make it appear as if they are calling from a different phone number than the one they are actually using. Are you curious? Join me after this intro.
Welcome to Everything with Everett. This is a talk show podcast hosted by Everett McConaughey. The purpose of this production is to share thoughts, voices, and information to further a discussion on who we are as individuals, communities, and a global society. Everything with Everett is open to all topics of discussion: faith, science, history, finances, social issues, and, well, everything. Be sure to follow, like, and subscribe. Visit everettpodcast.com for all the details.
So this podcast episode was prompted by a lady in Idaho, texted my podcast phone number, which is publicly available. It is listed out there. I've, shared it on many platforms, 208-391-2808. I have personally owned that number through Google. It's a Google Voice number. I have owned it since 2012. It is mine. I don't make outbound phone calls on it. So that's just full stop. I have not made outbound phone calls on it in at least 10 years. So if you ever get a phone call from my podcast phone number, 208-391-2808, it is false. It is spoofed. Do not answer it. It is not me. As much as you would probably love to talk to me, it's not me. I don't make outbound phone calls. So if you want to call it, feel free. Text me, call me, leave a voicemail. Maybe I'll respond back. But just so you know, I do not make outbound phone calls. So if you have stumbled upon this episode by Googling that number, you can either continue listening or rest assured right here and right now, I didn't call you. So anyway, got a text message from this lady. I will not reveal her name because, no fault of her own. She called me twice, an hour apart. I was like, what the heck is up with this? And then I got a text message of, who is this? And so I texted her back. I was like, no one at this number has reached out to you. And then I got a text back from her and she says, they called. It's a Google number. Who is this? And how else would I have this number unless someone called? And then I, informed her, as not everybody's, it's a pretty, your phone is a personal device. So to have some stranger buzz your phone it feels like an invasion a bit. Like, why are you bugging me? Why are you calling me? And I feel like it's so sad that we live in a world where it's easy for the criminals and the bad actors to just falsify their info and buzz you. And it's not, the trusted old days of 25 plus years ago where if your phone rang, it was legitimately somebody else on the other side that was trying to reach you or accidentally dialed a wrong digit. But either way, you got a human on the other side. So, I let her know, hey, I've had this number since 2012. I don't make outbound phone calls on it. And I proceeded to let her know about caller ID spoofing. And then she responded, okay, thank you. So that's that. But I figured, maybe it's a good topic to talk about. So caller ID spoofing, as I threw out into the intro, I'll give it again. Caller ID spoofing is a technique where the caller deliberately falsifies the information transmitted to your caller ID. And this is to disguise their true identity. This allows the caller to make it appear as if they are calling from a different phone number than the one they are currently actually using. And there are many legitimate reasons for this. A lot of businesses, like the outbound number from your employer, probably, if you have a bunch of like office desk phones, there's individual extensions for those phones, but you want to have your outbound numbers, be the flagship primary phone number that's listed on Google, so that they're not, calling Marjorie's desk after hours, or, maybe Marjorie leaves and, you're calling that person. You want to have a central number so that when people call back a number for whatever business it is, they're going to get somebody, no matter if somebody's at the desk that actually called them. So there are legitimate reasons to spoof, air quote, a number. But then when it comes to cell phones and stuff, it's a whole nother ball of wax because it's used for, exploitation and whatnot. So let's go ahead and talk more about caller ID spoofing. So utilizing ChatGPT, as always, for some handy dandy quick info breakdowns. How do people fake the number they're calling from? There are several methods used to spoof caller IDs. VoIP, which is Voice over Internet Protocol services. Many VoIP providers allow users to set a custom caller ID number. Spoofing apps and websites. Some apps and online services let users enter any number they want to display on the recipient's phone. PBX, or Private Branch Exchange systems. Businesses using PBX phone systems can configure their outgoing caller ID to show a specific number, which can be misused. And lastly, hacking or exploiting telecom networks. In some cases, attackers exploit vulnerabilities in telecom networks to manipulate caller ID data. And delving further, why do people spoof caller IDs? People spoof caller IDs for both legitimate and malicious purposes. Here are some legitimate uses of caller ID spoofing. Businesses. Customer service centers may display a central business number instead of individual employees' numbers. Doctors and professionals. Healthcare providers might use their office number instead of their personal phone. And law enforcement. Authorities might sometimes use spoofing for undercover operations. Now, looking at the malicious uses of spoofing, scams and fraud. Scammers can pose as banks, government agencies, or tech support to steal personal information. Telemarketing and robocalls. Unwanted sales calls often use fake numbers to bypass caller ID blocking. Harassment and pranks. Some people use spoofing to disguise their identity while making prank or threatening calls. Impersonating or phishing. That's phishing with a PH, identity theft. Cyber criminals use spoof numbers to trick victims into providing sensitive information. And lastly, how can you verify if a caller ID's number is legitimate? Well, first off, call back the official number. If a business or government agency calls, hang up and call their official number from their website. Chances are, if you were getting a spoofed phone call, they won't know anything that you're talking about. And you will hopefully have saved yourself from making a financially expensive mistake. Look for red flags. Scammers often use urgent or threatening language, demand personal information, or ask for money. Don't forget, you'll never get a phone call unsolicited from a county sheriff, the FBI, the IRS, any government entity, state, county, or city, saying that they are going to come arrest you and you can take care of your arrest warrant with buying some green dot gift cards at your local supermarket. That is a scam as old as time. When I worked at Albertsons, we constantly were on the front line of, trying to monitor that theft and reaching out to employees that were in the middle of being scammed, and literally they would believe that they were talking to someone from IT, and this is legit. They want gift cards because they're testing the system. No, you're putting the company's money into somebody else's pocket. And we had to finally, pull up security cameras and be like, you're wearing this clothing. Like, I am corporate. I can tell you are being ripped off. Stop. And then they would finally stop, and hopefully they weren't too many hundreds of dollars into the hole. So don't, just because someone, pressures you to believe who they are, or their number looks legit, the caller ID says something, concerning, you have the ultimate power to hang up. Even if it is legit, make them call back legitimately and actually convince you of their business with you. Obviously we went over the look for red flags, look for threatening language, demanding urgency and whatnot. Use a reverse lookup service. Websites or apps like Truecaller can help identify known spoofed numbers. You can also check the caller's authenticity. If someone claims to be from a bank or government agency, ask for details that only a real representative would know. And you can enable call authentication, STR. It says stir/shaken. Never heard that before. Some phone carriers implement stir and shaken technology, which verifies if a number is legitimate. And lastly, you can block and report suspicious calls. If you suspect fraud, report the number to your carrier or authorities, example, the FCC in the US. If you are getting a lot of robocalls, spam calls, a lot of crap, you can report that to, I think it's the FCC or the Federal Trade Commission. Google do not call reporting, and you can fill out a report. I've filled out many of those. I've never gotten anything back from anybody, but I have had periods where, my numbers, I've had my numbers since 2005 and 2012, very long time, and I get through periods, if you work for a less than ideal employer who doesn't handle their data properly, then, you get all the spam crap because they have bottom of the barrel employees that can't keep a spreadsheet guarded to save their lives. And then you get spam phone calls because they're just a bunch of dodos. But when you report these, it kind of helps let them know that your number is being targeted and whatnot. And they eventually do kind of wane off. If you don't answer the phone call, don't respond back. If someone texts you and is like, hey, call me, it's urgent, or who is this, or whatever, you don't have to respond. You don't have to answer the call. You can hang up, you can ignore, you can block. It is your phone number, and only you talk to who you want to talk to. So there you go. If you get a phone call or a text claiming to be from my podcast, 208-391-2808, I don't make outbound contacts from that number. I have my own cell phone number that I would use, because by that point I would probably actually know you. But if you want to reach out to me and you initiate it, I will reach back out, time willing, as accessible. But yeah, I don't make outbound phone calls. Anywho, so that is more information for you to know. Spoofed caller IDs. Educate your friends, educate your family, be informed.
Thank you for listening to Everything with Everett. Connect with Everett and other listeners on Facebook and Twitter at Everett Podcast. Everett would love to hear from you. Share your thoughts by emailing mystory@everettpodcast.com. You can also leave a voicemail or send a text message to 208-391-2808. Choose to listen, speak with kindness, and have a great day.